Greetings, geeks. Welcome to episode 753 Geeks in Space. I'm Rob Commander Taco Maldo, and joining me today for Tuesday Tomfoolery, we have Chris DeVona.
Hi.
And Rob Roseboom.
Hello.
This is really weird because Chris is physically in my house, but we're still streaming packets, perhaps hundreds of miles round trip.
Yeah.
Seems
That's the internet for you. Hi, Rob!
Actually, I did.
I don't know if that.
I got some.
You got some?
I got some.
What would have been great is if Zen had gotten that, you know?
You'd have to yell
he
a
could have
lot
heard
louder.
me. It's true. It's true. And, you know, be heard over the exciting times at Stivers.
I mean, that would imply that our vocal transmissions would be able to travel through the vacuum of space.
Well, you know, technically speaking, if the connections between here, if there's not too much, you know, buffering and the stuff going on between us and the data centers, sound that I send through the microphone, through the system to you should get to you faster than the sound just propagating through the air from here to where you're sitting.
God, I would hope so.
Yeah.
Well, from the here...
Speed of light versus speed of sound, you know, that whole thing.
No, I bet that's not true, just practically speaking, because of my routers and such.
Say something.
Something, Chris. Something.
Yeah, it's you should have a better network, Rob.
Oh, I am aware that I should have a better network. But you know who should really have a better network is the other Rob.
Hey, we're getting along just fine over here. Thank you very much.
Don't say it out loud; it'll fall over.
Yeah. If you piss off one of the 12 phones that Rob has to use to have internet, it all goes down.
No longer, my friend.
Oh, really? I didn't realize you were landlining again.
No, I just don't have 12 phones.
Oh. Oh, that's right. I forgot that story. Let's see. Well, we can start off with the air dryers. Yep. This was a Mythbusters.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I've been calling them poop atomizers since before COVID. You know?
Yep.
They exist to fling your feces around the room.
The real atomizer is the no-touch flush toilet. This just gives the bacteria a nice place to grow and a temperature that won't kill them, but accelerate their growth.
Incubator.
That's gross.
Also, when you said Adam, I thought you meant Adam Savage because I was thinking about Mythbusters. The article actually mentions Mythbusters as doing this as an episode. I mean, I don't like the air dryers, but you know what's worse than the air dryers? The single worst thing is, do you remember when you're kids and you got but the ones that are on a loop?
Well, they're not on a loop. They go from a feed roll to a consumption roll, right? And so they're not supposed to be worse. And then they wash the whole thing, you know, the big whole thing, right?
I thought you were going to say what's worse is the friend who, you know, decides that they're going to stand right next to you at the urinal, even if there's extra urinal spaces.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That guy's not cool.
Yeah, he's too close.
I don't trust that guy.
What he is.
I don't know. I don't. It's weird to me that story is still a thing, though. Because like that's gross. Like the air dryers are gross. Like I don't like it.
Oh, there's lots of gross stuff.
That's true. I
like
guess I should.
The
people are gross, basically.
The whole New York subway, you know, the study the lady just did that showed, I can't remember how many new strains of bacteria she found on handrails and everything else. There's like an entire different world that exists on anything that the public touches.
Yeah.
I bet because down there you don't actually see any natural sunshine, right? So there's probably like like it's subterranean.
So it's not like COVID where you just expose yourself to UV light and cure it.
Or ivermectin.
Right.
Course paste.
They don't have that down there, so yeah, you're right.
Gross. Let's see. Floppy disks.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the news. This is a Chris story. They get their second life at a California warehouse.
No, I think Rob was.
Nice story.
Oh,
Basically, this guy goes and he buys all the floppies he can find, erases them, and sells them back to all sorts of big industries like
Mhm.
airports, trains, any place that has an old machine that needs a floppy in it,
Bart.
because you
Yeah.
can't buy floppies pretty much anymore.
Yeah.
So he is not taking them to put in a museum, but actually taking them, wiping them, and sending them back to folks so that they can update, old pieces of technology.
If you have a floppy disk from the 80s that has data on it, but assuming the data is long lost at this point, is the material itself degraded, or if you just format it, does it still work?
It depends on how they're stored over the years, because remember, we're just talking about oxides, iron oxides on a mylar sheet, right?
Spinning
So they
rust.
can come off pretty easily if they're stored improperly, right? If it's too dry or too wet or too whatever,
Yep.
So yeah.
But the magnetism itself is essentially permanent. It's more about the adhesion of the ferrous materials to the disc.
No, the magnetism is imposed upon the medium by the heads of the thing. So the magnetism is not the big deal. The problem is if in degaussing it or whatever, you actually damage the substrate, right?
Gotcha.
Which is possible. So you have to be kind of careful.
I just really like stories like this because this guy isn't
Yeah.
recycling things. It isn't a museum. This guy has found a niche that he has
Yeah.
filled, right?
Owner of floppydisk.com.
Well, we were talking just last night about how the college kids these days have literally never used a floppy disk.
Yeah. And they sell floppy drives. I mean, this place knows their business.
It's weird because I guess in this particular case, I have a weird bias because I watch so much retro computing stuff on YouTube. Like I see floppies like all the time. Like I don't think of them as being particularly weird. But I guess, yeah, they kind of are. I think my entire floppy disk collection from my childhood is still in my dad's basement. And I kind of wonder, but I know for a fact that they're stored in a sheet metal toolbox. So I'm sure they're fine.
I'm having so many flashbacks right now. I'm like, oh man, I remember that.
Do you remember having the notcher so you could cut the notch out of your disc so you could get more space?
Oh, on the 5 1/4?
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Wow, he's got 5 1/4 and 8 inches. Wow,
Oh, yeah.
what's this guy?
8 inches are awesome.
Oh, wow.
There were bigger ones than 8 inches, right? Because I seem to remember.
He sells non-working ones for like decoration or whatever.
So I've heard.
On the internet. There's websites for it. Look at it. Don't Google it. You'll get on a list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like the floppy drives. Although I'm kind of like my favorite thing, or one of my favorite things to watch on retro YouTube things, is just all the weird inventions that people have made over the years so that you don't have to use floppy disks on old computers.
Yeah.
An NVMe adapter so that you can use a modern drive in a x86 like on an XT or something. Like weird connections, and like I can use this thumb drive.
There was a story of somebody putting a Commodore 64 on the internet and doing stuff, and I was like, so
all that stuff. I love when they do things like you get an Atari 800 cartridge and you put like a micro SD card in it. Like all that stuff is just so cool to me. And then because you get like a small micro SD card has 64 gigs on it. So you're like, literally this can hold every single bit of 8-bit code ever shipped in the United States on this one micro SD card. It's extraordinary. And that is my jam.
That's your jam.
That's my jam. Chris, we have an update on our the radioactive waste melter. Boy, they lasted a long time.
Yeah, it was overheating. So, the melter temperature is expected to climb to 2100 degrees Fahrenheit, but the heating was halted before even 300 degrees was hit.
I think they're just
So,
maybe using the wrong kind of radiator fluid.
Mm.
yeah, that's my guess. The
know,
blinker fluid needed changing. Yeah.
because you can't mix the pink and the sort of chartreuse colored ones, as I understand.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
thought
you
that
know, unless it's summer, you know.
Right. It
But
was
yeah.
something like that.
I know there's a rule that some of them you're supposed to mix them and some of them you're not, and I'm pretty sure that they would pay these people enough to figure it out.
Well, you would
Yeah.
hope,
Yeah,
but you'd hope a lot of things
That's
that
true.
are not to be true.
That's
So,
true. So yeah, they only lasted a couple of days. Well, guess they're gonna.
It just wasn't heating up fast enough, you guess? Is that the story?
There was something leaking, I thought. Well, good for them, I guess. They made a significant step and then had to start. I also like that the machine was designed to never have to be turned off. So it's pretty
Yeah.
cool that the first thing that they did was turned it off.
right.
Well, I mean, you know, it's important to know where the off switch is, you know.
That's true.
But, yeah.
If they would have known where the off switch was on Chernobyl, things might be different in Ukraine today.
Right.
It's just,
you know, so
it's just a good thing
for
they
these guys.
made an off switch, since it was designed never to be turned off.
Right.
Right. I mean, think of all the great science fiction stories that are, well, we never designed it to be shut off.
Yeah, I was just thinking this is absolutely a episode of a horrible Star Trek. Like, well, how do you shut it off? Off? What do you mean? We weren't ever going to shut it off.
No,
It never
why would
occurred
you want
to
that?
us.
This is the machine that's going to do everything your inner heart desires. Why would we ever shut it off?
Right.
Right.
Unplug it. What do you mean?
The only waste product it produces is cotton candy.
And love.
Right.
And power that's too cheap to meter. Yeah.
Yeah, free energy and Bitcoin. So there we go. There's the Quantum Mania trailer. I already watched it. Did you guys see it yet?
Yeah.
No. Have they taken MODOK completely out of it since Bill Murray is canceled?
I heard that no, Bill Murray's in it.
He is a
He's
shot.
in that trailer.
Right.
Let me find it.
Like one frame. I don't think it has a dialogue line.
Yeah, they go into the cantina from Star Wars.
Yep. There's Bill
And
Murray.
there's your Bill.
There he is.
But he's not playing MODOK. He's playing Skylar or Krylar.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know this character.
Yeah. Me
I
either.
imagine.
I don't know any of these people.
I imagine that it's going to kind of be like, you remember Glenn Close's role in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, was it? Where she was in...
Glenn Close?
Yeah. She's in that, and she's like the leader...
Oh.
She's like the leader.
Oh, yeah, she's in charge of the place that got destroyed by Thanos.
Right, the John C. Reilly planet. And she so clearly does not want to be in that movie.
Oh,
like every line of dialogue you can hear, like, just see in her face, like, get me off this set. I want to go home and do anything else. And maybe
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't think I agree with you on that.
I don't think she's in a position where she has to do that. To be honest.
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't have to do anything she doesn't want to. She's Glenn Close. She's got the monies.
I'm just saying,
she probably has grandkids like all the rest of them. It's like, hey, you know, they're gonna love it if I'm in this dumb movie.
Oh, for sure. Well, that's been the story. Like, Aragorn? He only did it because his kids told him to. There's a lot of cases like that where you see actors like, I only did this movie because my kids told me they wanted to. But
yeah, I mean, you know, Sir Alec Guinness famously said, "I wouldn't have done the Star Wars crap if it wasn't for my girlfriend who's dating this."
That's not accurate. But no,
how did they convince Sir Alec Guinness to star? I mean, it was Star Wars. It was the first Star Wars, so there's no world where you know
he ran a Jawa preserve.
They let him keep
time.
Oh, okay.
And part of the deal was they let him use some of his Jawas in the movie. So
no,
that's nice.
I mean, you know, there's always incentives.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a little bit shady to own Jawas, but hey,
it was
time, right?
It was the 70s.
We're not knighted. You know, if we're so smart, why don't we have Jawas?
It's true.
Right?
It's true.
So actually, I thought the trailer looked visually really cool. There you go. You're gonna. There's Crouton. Oh,
no, is that Crouton?
Toggle. That's Toggle. He's blurred. Yeah, that's Toggle. He's very friendly. Also, he likes to be spanked. So if you're feeling
I'm
brave,
not gonna spank your cat.
If you're feeling brave, spank it, and you'll be his best friend.
Not on camera.
No, I'm just gonna pet him.
That's good.
Try to keep his hair off my laptop.
Good luck with that. He gets his hair and everything. So I thought the trailer looked visually really cool. It's also got the girl. Did you either of you guys see Freaky?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Is that who's playing the daughter
Yeah, they
of the
recast
Ant-Man?
Cassie. They recast Cassie Lang with
Again.
again with her, and she was great in Freaky. Like she had to basically kind of do
What was
like,
Freaky about?
well,
It was
it's
the
a
Freaky Friday remake.
Oh,
Rob really
yeah.
likes it. It's okay.
it's a horror. It's Vince
Thank you, Ben.
Vaughn. It's Vince Vaughn as a serial killer. So you have Vince Vaughn playing a teenage girl,
right. And
and
he
you
flips.
have the teenage girl playing evil serial killer Vince Vaughn. And it is for a horror comedy. It is very fun.
Did you fart, Cat?
Very possibly. But I think she could do a really great job because in that she had to deliver a lot of comedic bits, and she had to be like pretty straightforward, scary. Like there's a lot of good stuff in that movie. And when they announced her casting, I was pretty excited actually because she was really good in that, and I'm all in for that. But I don't see how that movie ends up good. I hope it is.
Yeah.
I
You mean Quantumania or Freaky? No.
Freaky's great. I don't know about Quantumania. I like the Ant-Man movies just fine, but they're middling.
I don't know. I mean, they're trying to, I guess this is the whole King the Conqueror sort of era. And, I'm not convinced he's all that important.
And
he's no Thanos.
Unfortunately, Guardians of the Galaxy was a surprise huge hit, and so was Ragnarok. And now every Marvel movie has to be DC's the dark brooding one. We're the comedic garbage.
Right.
We're fun.
Superhero movies.
Well,
we're the 80s album cover. 70s
we're pigeonholing our bank account straight into the earth. But eventually everyone will be sick of this.
But every time they make a Falcon and the Winter Soldier or the Eternals, they try to make something serious. It sucks.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because,
I mean, for so many reasons.
I mean, at least the effects look better than She-Hulk.
The effects looked nice, but I mean, yeah, I only watched it on my desktop, so I don't know how well it holds up to 4K. But yeah, it's gorgeous. It's just gorgeous. All that quantum realm stuff, all that color. I just love all that stuff. But we'll see.
Also, I mean, just between you and me, I'm surprised Michael Douglas is still alive. I'm like, I mean, at this point, is he just CGI'd in? I mean, he's.
Well, look at how old his dad was when he finally passed.
That's true. He made it to like 100, didn't he?
His dad was. I'm almost sure he's in his.
I would Google it, but I have one hand on the mouse and one hand on my cat. So
yeah,
I'd Google it, but the strain would shut down my internet.
I just scared the kitty when I laughed.
That'll happen. Let's see. We've got a chip that can transmit over a petabyte of data a second.
1.84 petabytes via fiber optic cable.
And you know where it's not going to go? Rob's house.
My house, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, just thinking about it probably will bring down his network.
That's right. I mostly.
Oh, they transmitted it over 8 kilometers, so it's kind of real.
It's legit, yeah. I don't know. Like, I just think a lot about like my first modem was 1200 baud. I could read almost as fast as the text would flow.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Okay.
Let's see. We have the RTX 4090s. They're apparently burning.
Yeah.
So in addition to being so heavy that they have to be leveled.
So is this So I know that NVIDIA, for some of their cards, they include like an adapter from the old style PCI connectors to this thing.
That's what that is.
Is that what I'm looking at? I mean, because NVIDIA screwing it up is kind of a big deal. Like,
so
I mean, they know what kind of power draw is going to be pulled through these things. They control both ends of the connectors. So why is this happening? This is pretty irresponsible, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So there's actually been a bit of controversy connected to that recently too. But yeah, there's a dongle and I
Yeah.
guess it's up to the or the card manufacturer to decide on the details. But the plug, hey, there's Toggle's butthole. So
Time to spank him.
yep, just spank him.
Don't eat my mouse.
Oh, he'll eat
There
everything.
you go. Okay.
Everything goes in his mouth. Yeah. So there's a little chip on the connector there, right? And you can that's what that slot is on the top of the jack. It's like a 4-pin or 5-pin or something thing in there. It's really
Right.
weird looking. So apparently you can power the card with just 2 PCIe ports, but if you want the full wattage, you need the third plug out of your power supply, and then the chip there is what's supposed to be detecting if you've got the third port or not. And it's just, I don't know, man. This is a lot, but I just feel like there's something fundamentally going on with GPUs right now. Like I feel like we've gone too far down a dark path.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's just, this is just darn weird. That's all. And also, why is there a chip? Is this like a different interface now on top of PCI, on top of power delivery? I mean,
so they have a little chip that sits there. That's basically a little microcontroller to determine how much.
is this the one that like Steve at Gamers Nexus was going on about for overclocking? Like you have to have the special dongle, otherwise you can't overclock, or you can't overclock, or some nonsense like that.
That's basically it, yeah. And this
So
is
do the new power supplies have the chip
no
as well?
the
That they have to
dongle
get from NVIDIA and pay them and shit?
the dongle has the chip, and the dongle's job is to determine basically, do you have 2 or 3 PCIe connectors plugged into your dongle. But I believe it is and it's logoed NVIDIA. So like,
why in God's name would they put that logic on the dongle, though? I mean,
I assume cost cutting, because you're gonna. Because I think the assumption would be that a year from now.
No, it's not cost cutting. It's a 4090. They cost $1,900. This is about them trying to basically manhandle the power supply vendors into creating a proprietary interface just for their video cards.
Well, I think that for most power supplies, that all you need is a third PCIe power plug, right? So I mean, they don't need anything special. It's just about getting into this. I don't know.
This is about market control. Kicking AMD in the shins. This is not about.
Yeah. It's always about your moat.
NVIDIA classic.
Yeah. Dig your deeper moat.
Yeah.
That's
So my page finally loaded. Kirk Douglas was 103 years old when he died.
Wow.
There we go.
That's remarkable.
Good for him. So Chris, I shared with you a TikTok of a guy turning his eye into a flashlight. Do you want to creep each other out for a second?
That's something.
Isn't that cool?
Wait, let me go to the beginning. You have to see him turn it on.
I gotta say, if you're gonna lose an eye, do something cool with it. And all right, good on you, man.
Yeah, I mean, is there like a button in his pocket? Does he have to poke himself in the eye to turn it on? I mean, how does he turn it on?
Hey Alexa, turn on my eye.
I mean, that's neat. I might want just like a single-use flare.
Like you're to shoot it at people?
Or if you're in danger.
Oh,
right? I mean,
for like help.
Yeah, that little flashlight isn't going to save you.
First of all, you know what? This guy survived cancer. He can do whatever the hell he wants. Good for him.
For
sure. But I'm like, I don't know.
I have so many eye issues like that creeps me out just on a fundamental, like, don't touch eyeballs kind of thing.
Yep.
But it's, yeah, I think that's neat. Although I'm hoping that he's really able to upgrade. Like, he should have a camera. Remember all the hubbub people had about the Google glasses back in the day?
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do about that guy?
Well, I mean, clearly punch him in the face at the bar in San Francisco.
Dude,
right?
He only has one eye.
Well, I mean, that's what they do there. That's if you have Google Glass, they kick your ass. I mean, it's their whole thing.
Or you say to that guy, hey, there seems to be an inordinate amount of light coming out of your eye. Is that a camera?
Mm-hmm.
And he replies, beep.
He replies, "Of course
Gotta
not.
go.
I just usually wear sunglasses. You just never noticed."
I'm loading his about page and see if I can find his website because he has other cybernetic eyes.
Oh, that's
You know?
cool.
You know, he could probably like go to like science fiction conventions and be like a really cool cosplayer with that. He could be the hitman from the future from that Onion article. You know, get like a vape pen and go crazy.
I'm always
So
a big fan of people doing cool stuff with their prosthetics. You've seen,
Yeah, right.
I just actually saw earlier today a guy who had prosthetic legs designed to be mounted to skis. Like, right on. That's
He's
awesome.
got Ramstein eyes. I mean,
I was gonna say, do you think there's any chance he didn't try a laser pointer of some sort?
oh, he must have, right?
It
There we
would be
go.
pretty
And this
fun
guy's
to.
having a good time with his eye. You know,
You can play with your cat.
he's got a little ghost, little Halloween eye. You know?
Yeah, he's like the hitman in The Last Action Hero.
I was gonna say
Yeah,
the
right.
same thing, but I was afraid you'd make fun of me because you know I like that movie.
That's why I brought it up.
Plus, that movie has a bunch of Megadeth songs.
Mm.
Yeah. So the real problem is the sort of the impressionable steampunk enthusiast who's like, I'm going to gouge my eye out so I can do this too.
Yeah, don't do that, internet.
Don't do that. Don't do that, internet.
That's
Don't ruin Brian's fun. It's okay for Brian. He lost his eye to cancer. Don't mess with Brian. Don't ruin it for Brian, okay? You try hard steampunk enthusiasts.
The older I get, the more I think if someone wants to do that, better off that we let them.
It's hard to stop it.
Yeah.
But like Brian should have a special pass, is what I'm saying. Like we shouldn't come down on Brian for these other jackasses who are gonna try to like ride his coattails or whatever.
No, that dude's making lemonade.
Yeah,
good on him.
He really is.
That's awesome.
We give Brian the Geeks in Space seal of approval.
That's right. I don't have any sound effects. That can be the seal of approval. Let's see. We got the Jack Dorsey Blue Sky Social.
Yeah, it's gonna kill Twitter.
Yep.
Ugh.
That's gonna work.
I mean, so the real question is, can Web3 blockchain decentralized crap be as depressing and a downer as Twitter is? I don't know. I mean, it's a lot to ask from a new technology stack that nobody really knows what it is.
How much sadness?
Can it be that depressing? How much sadness can the protocols handle?
That's true.
How much calling out for, some minor faux pas will it tolerate?
Well, that's the question. That's the question for the comments then. What's the saddest tech stack?
What's the saddest tech stack? Like some old jQuery based, Ruby on Rails thing.
I mean, it's got to be Mod Perl, right? Apache Mod Perl. But no, there's probably some pretty sad stacks out there.
Yeah.
The saddest. Man.
What's the saddest framework that you've ever used? Is it Swing? Is it Gwit? Is it?
I can actually tell you the saddest stack that I ever had to use for web development. It was
Flash code.
Yeah, well, it was called IDC, I think. It was a Microsoft proprietary database connection thing, and I had to use it for. I had to use it in like 1996 in order to talk to an Access server running on an NT server to IIS. And the thing about this platform is you could only do one query per page. So you had to build your entire page with a single query. Now I ask you, how do you log in and out when you can only have one query? And let me tell you, it was a royal pain.
It sounds it.
It was a nightmare, and I had to write a lot of web pages in it, and they were so terrible. And in fact, it was so terrible that that's why I learned Perl. So the last one that we have on the list is Shutterstock is going to start selling AI-generated imagery. But don't worry, artists, because they're planning on figuring out a way to fund the contributors to the model. That's going to totally work.
What's funny about this is, the spring, there was a ruling, I think it was the 11th Circuit, or I don't remember what circuit it was, but that AI generated images weren't themselves allowed to have copyright. So it would still have to be owned by a person. And there's a question of, can AI generated images be considered unique creative works and thus able to be copyrighted? And so I think they have an uphill battle. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
But they could do things like, give me an oil painting version of this stock photo,
Right.
right? Give me a, I don't know, a version of the stock photo, but with extra eyes and fingers, or whatever. But
These are questions that we're never going to have satisfactory answers to, because we still
well,
haven't sorted it out with music.
yeah,
Like, I was actually just yesterday, I stumbled on some YouTubers who were very mad because one YouTuber, the theme song to his channel sounded suspiciously like a song that somebody else had recorded like a decade earlier. And it got copyright flagged. And then there's this whole thing where their respective YouTube fan communities each hear what they want to hear. If it's a copy of a music or a complete parallel piece of composition. And since it was chip tunes, they sounded very similar already. And because they're using like the same chord progressions as everybody, it's like,
yeah.
remember when Creedence Clearwater
Hawkville's
Revival
Cabin,
sued
yeah.
John Fogerty for making songs that sounded like John Fogerty songs because he wrote all Creedence's songs? I mean, music all sounds, on some level, it's just the same 12 notes, guys. And I think that we're going to end up with like, we never solved that, even when it's that simple. We never worked it out. And I think it's going to just be so much worse with AI. You're muted if you're trying to say
I know.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
We know, everybody's seen this guy.
We've all seen this, yeah.
And those are the three chords that I know, I can play all those songs, right?
Yep.
So I don't know. We didn't solve it, and there's been so many weird things too. Like, there was the guy who wrote a program to generate every possible combination of notes in 16 bars. And they ruled.
Well, somebody tried to do this with images too. They basically generated every 256 by 256 image, and then tried to submit them or whatever. All the sites were like, no, come on, bud.
But I mean, what's the difference? I mean, there's at some level,
unique,
this is the same
creative
thing.
Work.
Yeah, but I don't see. Yeah, I think it's pretty damn creative to generate every single combination of music ever made.
But it's not unique, right? And
I
guess the overall work
exactly.
of the,
so the complete work is unique. So now, why are you telling me that I can't that 6 measures of my So if you say that I can't copyright 8 bars out of my billion measure thing, why can you charge money to sample another song when you just told me you can't sample a piece of another composition? Like, these are not logical rules. And ultimately the goal is you want everybody to be fairly compensated, but you want to do that without crippling our society's ability to create art.
Well, so here's one. I'm going to paste this into the channel here. Andy Bayo did actually a really considered article about this stuff that I think is really pretty neat. So we should link to that. There you go.
I'm throwing it onto the zone.
And it's, basically he's like, listen, they're using this stuff. It's getting replicated, anyway, so it's just an interesting article. So
I will read it. Yeah, I don't know. I think this is just one of the many apocalypses that are falling upon our society. And I guess what I'm most sad about is that large commercial interests will ultimately use these things to dig deeper moats and further cripple creative individuals. And with all due respect, you see that like with YouTube copyright flagging creators all the time. Of course, there's a spectrum between fair use and not. And making it hard is bad for creative, individual, artistic-minded people, and that makes me sad.
Yeah.
I will post this story as well, so that the zone shall be complete.
Well, so it goes to this core, and I was talking to Andy about this. I was like, so here's the thing. People take these big data sets, they basically crawl the web or crawl like Shutterstock, and then they say, okay, let's have a bunch of people on Mechanical Turk tag them. And then they say, okay, this whole thing now is under the machine learning rail license, the responsible AI license. And it's like, hold on a second. The images aren't yours.
Yep.
The tags are just facts.
Yep.
So it seems like you can't copyright jack or shit.
Right.
So, why are you telling me that now I have to, if I want to follow in your footsteps here, that I owe you anything,
Yeah.
And this is different from someone saying, hey, I'm going to take all this source code and paste it in wholesale without attribution. It's like, when you hit those, thresholds of, well, you're just copying code over and that's okay, so long as you acknowledge the license, right? It's like, there's a lot of fast and loose here, and it's like, and it's a little disturbing. That's all, because we spent so much time thinking these issues through in open source, and giving people like, hey, you can use this code, you just have to acknowledge it, or you just have to share some other code, right? And then people are like, or how about I use it and don't do all that?
Sure.
So.
But yeah, and this is even more weird, because this is like literally this is the Mona Lisa and Rembrandt, stuff that is clearly like visually in the public domain, but also it's like the artistic style of somebody actively working right now. These programs can ape the style of an artist, and
but
that's probably
there's 7.5 billion people, soon 8 billion people on the planet. Should someone be able to own a style, a theme, a collection of colors? No, they shouldn't, right? So it's like, when do you pass the threshold of you're just copying this person's image?
And that's
or this
that's
video,
like all of these things, that's the problem, right? That's why people invented the DMCA in the 90s, because there's like every one of these things is just the corporations try to dig a moat. And it's no different than the CCA or whatever trying to protect, I don't know, songwriter royalties and everything. All of these things are all mixed in together, the same sort of fundamental problem. And there's no easy solution. No matter what you do,
the reality is there's going to be some really nice long lawsuits.
Yep.
So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, but at the end of
Google had the perfect 10 lawsuits around thumbnail use. We had snippets lawsuits around being able to create snippets for using, various algorithms to create a snippet, and that was found to be fair use. I mean, the Oracle case ended in a fair use ruling. It's like, so the question is, who's going to stand up? Who's going to fight this fight for this nonsense, right?
Well, and it's going to be the people with the deepest pockets.
Well, the thing is, so Microsoft with Copilot, are they going to fall back on the GitHub terms of use, which says we have to have the ability to integrate across all the code hosted on this site, independent of the license in it? And it's like, oh, that's a stretch, though, because a lot of the people are uploading code that they themselves only have license to because of the open source licenses. So you can't impose upon them some greater rights that they themselves don't even have, right? So, I mean, yeah. So who's going to bring that lawsuit?
None of this is easy. That's the thing. And no matter what, the lines will be drawn in ways that are going to be unfair and like maybe immoral to a lot of people.
Yeah. And I mean, there's gonna be a lot of passion, but I also don't want to ascribe too many rights beyond fair use to these things. Like, we should be able to read code, learn from it, and then go create new unique works with that knowledge.
Of course.
Right. we've spent our entire careers defending people's ability to do this. And it's like, people trying to say, well, no. You looked at this. I can hear your thoughts. You owe me money for that thought. And it's like, that's where a lot of people want to go, this like copyright maximalism. And it's like, no, I'm sorry. That's just not okay.
It's hard
That's
because so
slavery.
if you hear 16 bars of music and then play it on your piano, do you have to pay somebody the rights for that? And how is that different
If you whistle it as you're walking down the street?
Exactly. And how is that different from me looking at 50 comics of an artist if I have artistic skill? All this is doing basically is taking artistic skill out of the equation. And it just comes down to, is the skill of the individual that's doing the transformation on the original material, is that the different thing? And I don't necessarily think it is. But I don't know. I just think our kids are going to have a lot less rights than we do.
Yeah.
Sigh. That was the last thing on the zone. Do we have anything else?
Not really.
Did we ever talk about the finale of Rings of Power?
Did we?
I don't.
I still haven't seen the finale of Hot D, but
Me either.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen like the last 3 episodes of that because I've been traveling so much. So
Rings of Power.
But yeah, let's talk about Rings of Power because I don't care about that.
All right, well, go ahead, Rob.
Well, everybody is who you thought they'd be.
Pretty much,
right?
Yeah.
Like surprise. Just for a little while, they try to make you think that Gandalf is actually Sauron, because his minions are apparently really terrible at recognizing their true master.
Right.
So, and then Sauron ends up being who you would imagine Sauron is if you've been watching it and sat for a second and thought, what would someone who doesn't really like Lord of the Rings or knows about it, who would they make Sauron, or how would they make him into the show under the radar? And then they did that.
I didn't even think it was that bad. I thought it was, you liked Aragorn, right? Well, we're going to have to do something subversive. Let's make subversive Aragorn.
So I really like the Hobbit storyline, the Harfoots. I thought that was great.
Too.
I actually liked the bromance between Elrond and Durin.
I also like that.
It's sort of, and I really like Durin's wife, Disa, is that her name?
I don't recall her name, but yeah, she was great.
She was great. And they added a little bit of dwarvish lore in there that was cool, to make them more than just, stuffy, short people who are constantly mad about stuff.
And being tossed around by my magicians on the regular.
In bars,
and rangers.
So there were some decent things in it. All in all, the storyline was just, I don't know, too long, too boring.
Yeah.
Everything that you'd watch, you think, oh, I bet this is what that is. That it turns out to be true.
I didn't care about anything with the Adar. Is that the guy's name? With that plot line, the human village in the what eventually became Mordor. None of that.
Right.
That all felt so slow and boring. And then everything on Numenor felt so slow and boring. I liked Galadriel a lot in the very first episode when she was like fighting stuff at the very beginning. And
then, when she was all Tomb Raider.
Yeah, when she was doing things. And then when she got to Numenor, everything that happened in Numenor was boring, which pissed me off because it was visually that's a cool friggin' set. Those places, like there's no doubt that show looked great. I don't think there was.
Yeah, and for me, I never got the feeling that Numenor was like Atlantis, which is basically what it's supposed to be. Right. It's supposed to be just a paradise of human beings who have got a leg up thanks to elvish magic and support, who now are sort of turning their backs and have gotten so powerful now they're like, well, we don't trust anybody. I mean, the city itself that they showed was the capital was very pretty. It was, like the architecture of it was kind of cool, but I never felt like anybody there was any more advanced than any of the other places. They just had better armor,
Yeah, and fundamentally, just from a storytelling perspective, at least from my end, like every time they were there, I'm just like, we get it. You have to go fight the big battle that's you've clearly set up as being the season finale. I am bored. Get there now because I don't care about this. Like I would have from a storytelling thing, I would have enjoyed seeing that battle with the dwarves rising up and being a part of that battle. The dwarves were at least seem interesting. You've got rivalries and stuff happening between father and son. Like that's a lot of that stuff seemed to work for me. Numenor just fell flat.
Yeah. So I don't know. I watched it, but meh.
Yeah.
I don't really care if another season comes out.
Well, you know it will.
Well, I know it will.
Yeah. You don't drop $250 million in rights to that estate and give up after one season. I mean, optimistically, maybe they learn from this and like make a little bit more happen in episodes.
Yeah, maybe. Also, did you moving on from that, did you watch the Marvel, the werewolf?
I did. What did you think?
So here's my Man-Thing is since I was a little kid, Man-Thing.
Yeah, when I saw Man-Thing, the first thing I was like, I hope Rob is happy with Man-Thing, and then I was not.
Because for those of you who don't know, Man-Thing, they used to put out little 45 storybooks, Marvel did. And the Man-Thing one is about a clown that falls in love with a trapeze artist, but she has an affair with the strongman in the circus. So he goes into the swamp and commits suicide. Man-Thing finds him and protects the body. The story goes on, and at the very end, some weird carnival music plays. The spirit of the clown comes up and talks about how it's okay that he's dead because his job in life was to make people laugh, but he couldn't laugh himself. It's very fucking dark, right? Yeah. And it's a storybook. Like I got it when I was 4, and I'm looking at this and I don't grasp the gravity of all of it, but I'm like, this is not like any other thing I've ever seen. And to this day, I wonder who in the hell gave that the okay. It is absolutely not age appropriate, right? So anyway, that character has always been a favorite of mine since that very time. And when they talked about launching sort of the dark universe, DC has a couple of animated shorts where they delve into that, with like Constantine, and all those sorts of characters. So like the Marvel take on that intrigued me. So I thought, well, maybe they could start something like that when they tried to make Man-Thing a while ago. So this I thought was very corny. I really liked Man-Thing. It might be my favorite sort of depiction of him in a movie, but the makeup on the werewolf is truly dreadful, and the story is awful.
They leaned too hard into those classic monster movies. Like you know, there's a reason we don't make those anymore. You know, because they're corny, and they made an aesthetic choice, right? They decided to make the corny thing.
Well, I think honestly, I think the special effects in the Lon Chaney Jr. Wolfman were better than the werewolf special effects in this movie. I'm not kidding you.
Wow.
The werewolf effects in this movie are awful.
Yeah. I mean, it was just corny, and you know me, I'm a big fan of self-aware cheese. But this I don't know, there was a tone thing that just didn't work for me. I was bummed because I thought that would be a pretty fun thing, but the rumor now is that going forward, Marvel's going to be doing more of these special one-off presentations. The rumor is Silver Surfer is going to be one of the next ones.
Maybe. I also watched all the. Do you ever watch so if you go there and watch it in timeline order, they have like little 5-minute shorts in between all the movies.
There's a lot of them.
Some of those are kind of delightful.
They are.
A lot of them are not, but some of them are a lot of fun.
If you mentioned Ragnarok earlier, but there's a bunch of Thor ones where like Thor's living on Earth, like with his roommate and stuff. But there's if you go through the shorts, there's tons of fun Marvel shorts in there. Little silly. They've been doing that all along. and I'm sure I haven't seen them all. I wish the werewolf thing was better. It's funny that you mentioned Constantine because I just watched that like 2 days ago.
The Keanu Reeves
the
or
Keanu
the
Reeves
CW?
one. The Keanu
Yeah.
Reeves one, because they're gonna make.
They're
a new
making
one.
another one, you know.
Yeah. So I figured I'd rewatch this one, and I gotta tell you, man, I was pretty bored. Pretty bored.
Yeah. It is an archaic representation.
Well, it doesn't feel like what I thought Constantine was, but
yeah.
Oh well. Shall we bid farewell?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Goodbye, Rob Roseboom.
Goodbye.
Chris, you never ran in and got behind my screen or anything and broke the fourth wall. So do that.
Oh.
You can say when. Oh, he should say the goodbyes. Yeah, you say. You say. You're mute yourself.
Okay.
Okay, Rob.
Say goodbye.
Bye.
Oh.
Oh.
Huh.